Hello friends, it's your Uncle Neil. For this video I've chosen very modern topics. Might and supremacy. I can just hear you all saying, "Oh boy, Uncle Neil, you choose the best topics." That's because I care deeply. I'll start with might because that's what humans do. And then I'll tell you a story I call The Child. Finally, I'll explore how I think Tao answers the child's needs. While violence is not a positive force, it can clear away an obstacle to something that is positive. Water pulls serenely under a rock while actually violently removing the rock's presence. A measured act of violence may prevent greater violence by resolving pressure. It may have been violence between individual ancestors of ours which caused neurons to make new connections within their balls of meat. Connections which began forming plans and skills to make that violence against them stop. Then other things caused new connections to form, and life got much more complicated than was originally intended. We call the ability to make those connections intelligence. Kurt Vonnegut called it our big brains. Because of that intel, most humans came to think of themselves as special creatures, graced with some kind of higher nature. Some think that nature gives us a massive responsibility, but others just see it as an advantage. The entire routine natural world uses advantages to survive and dominate, so those who see it this way are probably closer to right. However, losing the idea of responsibility makes living in groups for safety, well, self-defeating. Therefore, we had to invent a reason for that to exist, and morality was born. A name was given to represent this new idea, and leaders sold it. The morality began to suggest that we are graced with intelligence so that we may do the work of God. I think that's fanciful thinking, but it made humans safer within the groups. However, nature has no primary species over another. All are dependent on each other, so none have supremacy. We are part of nature, so can't be above it. Reasons may inhibit an individual's violent actions, but not that of an entire species. Gandhi's moment gave violent birth to Pakistan, thus proving nonviolence to be an abstraction. In fact, the universe routinely employs violence, so believing ourselves above universal norm is pure ego. It may produce a warm fuzzy, but ego is a deadly sin, folks. That's so because it strives to achieve greater personal safety through control of nature, an impossibility. In 1899, Mark Twain wrote, "Peace by persuasion has a pleasant sound, but I think we should not be able to work it. We should have to tame the human race first, and history seems to show that that cannot be done." From birth to age 2, a child really has no concept of life outside itself. The child is taking in stimuli but has no way to name or categorize stuff. The child's mind assumes it has total control over curious beings who make that child comfortable again, and things which are amusing keep being amusing. However, routinely at the age of 2, the child moves its arms and notices what doesn't happen. The child makes sound, but the beings don't come as quickly anymore. The child begins to see itself at the mercy of whim and is understandably filled with fear. But instead of seeing control as an illusion, the child begins planning ways to regain that control. In that moment, the child tastes of the original sin, that of ego. The child grows testing personality strengths, boundaries, manipulative abilities, things like that. Things seem to work until they don't, and the child learns. The constant strategy adjustments to regain control, however, plant seeds of a tree called neurosis. From here on out, the child is fucked. We can't control nature, so the idea of doing so is garbage. Garbage should be left at the curb while we just roll away. Instead, trinkets of societies before and during one's own inject form of unknown element which feels like something we can learn from? What paths did ancestors take to control nature? What had they learned? Will it free us from our fear? Tao teaches that the past and future do not exist. Time is a construct of a bored mind trying to predict challenges to our survival. But only the moment exists for the Tao. We repeatedly see that history has no influence over the now. It informs us that the current situation has happened before, but our actions are only modestly different. Therefore, a modest improvement of the situation occurs, and we move on but rest easier. We've ensured it will never happen again. Am I right? Of course I am. It's also natural to all life, including rocks and water, that life ends. We of Eastern determinations think death is an illusion, as life merely changes form without end. Often it changes form because of another life that killed it for food, maybe protection or mating, or retribution. Killing is natural to all life, and therefore to all natures, including humans. It becomes negative only when it ignites society's fear of safety. We all understand a civilized society needs rules governing instinctual drives, but those are a construct of herd agreement. Thomas Hobbes had said as much in Leviathan, so I'm not speaking of a fringe idea here. But of life or killing, Tao has no morality, so can't be immoral. To assign a morality on a thing that has none is to insert authority over that thing. We then equated ourselves to be one with that authority and expected that union returned our control over nature. Satisfied with our brilliance, we then set about defining this morality. What did it look like? Smell like? How big was its dick? Creativity took center stage to answer these very questions, and we soon had a number of images from writers, artists, and poets. Italian writers tell us God smells like fresh baked bread. That talent was ego run amok, but very human and beautiful. From their pretty nonsense sprang new problems, which made the child think maybe we hadn't regained control over nature's whims. We belong to nature just as fiber belongs within cloth. Evolution created a neural network capable of storing memories and guessing at outcomes purely as a new gizmo, a model specification that self-renews. It's of no difference than a porcupine's quills. A frontal lobe was probably born from having opposable thumbs, which crave something to do. This is just making use of what's available, not some higher purpose, however. Again, we cannot be of higher significance than another life. Life is all equal with all other life. It's just time to get over ourselves. That's all. We may yet figure out how to live among ourselves. If we do, then we will have also figured out how to sustain our planet. Self-interest will probably still get in the way of a perfect society, though. Shocking events will make the predictably overprotective and sterilized society afraid. They will elect folks who vow to protect them from a mass enemy instead of a sick few, and the cycle will begin again. Hopefully their scientific nature will triumph over the monkey brain at that time, but I don't anticipate being here to know. Therefore, I will assume in order to be happier at this moment. Peace and love, everyone.